big calls on all the big races. Welcome along to What a Shout, brought to you by the Racing Post and sponsored by Betfred. We have got a bumper-packed programme over the next 45 minutes or so because we are going to dissect the best races from 5 days on the Sussex Downs at glorious Goodwood. Joining us in the studio, first of all, a very warm welcome to Keith Melrose. How are you?
I'm well, Emma. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Now, let's start with Goodwood. This festival, where does it sort of pitch in the pecking order of top flat festivals throughout the year?
In terms of difficulty, I've got it very high. Goodwood's a track where I maybe don't have the very, very best record in the world because it's so unique, but it's because it's so unique, it brings in something that's totally different. And, you know, we get a good renewal of the Sussex, there's nothing better. We had that great Goodwood Cup last year where we had all the big ones came into that race. So, you know, it's got all those Group 1s and it tends to live and die by those Group 1s a little bit because sometimes you get bumper fields and sometimes not so much. But it looks, in a lot of the cases this year, like we've got a really interesting week in store. And
the weather, that's going to play its part, isn't it? Because it's a sort of variable forecast with plenty kind of creeping in at the end of the week, which is going to make it tricky.
It is, yeah. I think looking at the forecast as it stands just now, you know, that can change minute to minute just about, but you're looking at maybe keep your soft ground horses for later in the week. I find when Goodwood gets soft, it's just about 9 out of 10 difficulty on the punting scale. So I'll be hoping it doesn't get too wet, you know, so we're still maybe looking at easy side through the week. But yeah, I'd say more of your soft ground horses are going to be later in the week if at all.
And to your left, it's good to have Maddy Playle. Welcome along.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, really looking forward to this week. It's going to be great.
And glorious Goodwood when the sun shines is beautiful. It's stunning. There's no better place. And it's just a shame we're not quite going to get that this year. I know there's fantastic racing, but it's the icing on the cake when the sun's out.
It is, and I think as Keith touched upon, it makes it harder to pick out the winners. I almost feel like if you back a winner at Goodwood, you feel more pleased than if you've done it anywhere else, purely because it's more rewarding because you know how much can go wrong. The first time I went to Goodwood was the year that Here Comes When won the Sussex, and it was absolutely freezing. It was tipping it down. So hopefully we're not going to have a repeat of that. But yeah, looking forward to seeing Paddington and co on the Downs.
I feel like the weather for our summer has been a little bit disappointing this year. I mean, we had a sort of glimmer of hope, and was it the beginning of June? And since it's been not very nice.
Warm, but not particularly sunny and something, somewhere that you want to go out in.
That's the worst. That's the worst.
Difficult punting because suddenly there's a downpour and we get soft ground sort of overnight for plenty of our big races.
Well, yeah, and it just sort of has to, you have to reset the sort of the form clock almost because we didn't have rain for about 2 months, did we? Sort of in the spring and early summer. And all of a sudden we've got, you know, genuinely soft ground in places in the middle of summer. Although the tracks aren't coming up as soft as you maybe think, given how wet it's been. You know, it was soft side at York and Ascot over the weekend there.
I think because it's been quite windy as well, that can help. I was at Ascot on Friday before the King George, and the sort of wind and the temperatures being relatively high helps the ground quicken up. So maybe we'll see a bit more of that at Goodwood, because although we are going to get showers, I don't think the temperature is going to be too cold, so maybe one to factor in.
Yeah, and a windy day Thursday as well, I think. So you might end up a drying day if they don't get the rain.
And Matt is very much part of the furniture on this programme. He's on the show with us every week. Matt, are you looking forward to it? Offers, odds, anything to tell us about and report?
Yeah, I can't wait. It's one of the best ones of the summer. I mean, it's stunning, isn't it, when the sun's shining? Like you say, that we're not really going to get too much of that, I don't think. It is changing, like Keith said, it's changing all the time. Last night I checked it, and then again this morning they brought thundery showers into the mix now on Wednesday and Thursday. So I have no idea what we're going to get. I remember the Here Comes When Maddy just mentioned, then I had a change of clothes that day. I got wet, so wet in the morning, I had to go and change to a different set of clothes. It was ridiculous that day. So I don't think we'll get those proportions, but the ground, looking, running, as we know, at Goodwood all the time is important. And I think you're right, a winner here is worth more than anywhere else. But yeah, loads of offers in our shops will be best as guaranteed on all Goodwood and Galway out the entire week as well from 8 o'clock the day of the race. So we've got that. We'll have extra places on the big races as well throughout the week. So yeah, loads to look forward to. Some great offers. And it's a brilliant week, Galway and of course glorious Goodwood. Cannot wait.
Well, please remember, this is a like, subscribe, share and comment programme. We want to hear from you and we'd love your involvement. We are delighted to be joined by Charlie Johnston. Charlie, with your records at glorious Goodwood, it seems fairly fitting that we have you on the programme.
Yeah, big week ahead. Going to be a pretty huge team heading down. And yeah, now that we've got a few decks made for the first couple of days, the pressure's starting to build. But yeah, looking forward to the week. It would be nice to get one on the board tomorrow, and then we can enjoy the week from there.
And growing up over the years, it's somewhere that you all used to go as a family, probably still do. Why do you think you've had so much luck on the track? Because it's a quirky place.
Yeah, it is. I think those idiosyncrasies probably suit our horses a bit. It's a place where it can pay to be on the front end. I think that advantage has maybe been negated a bit in recent years. They're quite keen on a false rail now that kind of throws the horses out into the middle of the track. So there's maybe not as many hard luck stories as there used to be, but it often used to be that we were out in front, out the way, and everyone else was climbing over each other in behind us.
You've alluded to the fact you're sending a big team down. It would be abnormal if you didn't. Numbers, roughly wise?
I'd say it's going to be in the low 30s. We've got 5 for Tuesday, and we've just declared quite a lot on Wednesday. 4, 5, 9 for 9 for Wednesday. So yeah, I think it's shaping up to be somewhere in the low 30s.
Okay, well look, there's no way that we're going to go through all these runners. So I'm actually just going to pin you down to talking about what you would consider your best chances of the week.
Yeah, I think probably the sort of flagship horse now in a weird way is going to be Subjectivist's little brother. We'd love to have Subjectivist there for the Goodwood Cup on Tuesday, but as is well known now, he was retired last week, sadly. But his younger brother, Individualism, is going to go for the maiden on Saturday, and it would be great if he could take his first step to fill in some pretty huge shoes. That's
one. Keep going,
yeah.
Because
okay,
there are many, and the handicaps is something that you do incredibly well with, and not always the ones that, funny enough, are that obvious.
Yeah, I think we're going to have multiple entries in a lot of the races, and the slight difficulty at the moment is that, to be honest, those plans aren't going to be finalised until quite close to the time, because the ground is a bit of a variable that we're not sure about really. But to spin through a few, Qatar tomorrow would be an obvious chance. She's a filly that's improving quickly. We've always thought a lot of her, and she's finally getting her act together now. So the 6 furlong fillies handicap at the back end of tomorrow's card looks ideal for her. She'll handle a bit of cutting the ground. Wednesday, we've just declared 4 for the 1.5 mile, 3-year-old handicap, which is one that historically we do very well in. Alumnus was just beaten in a photo on Saturday. Struth has run some good races this year. French Invasion back from a long break. Thursday, the 3-year-old handicap again will be strongly handed. Killyveg's Warrior, who won at the July meeting. He's a horse that at the moment seems to reserve his best for Newmarket. If he can take that form elsewhere, then he would have a big chance. And the Golden Mile on Friday, I would love for Dutch Decoy to sneak in. I've been watching what everyone else is doing, horses running elsewhere. There was a few Witch Hunter that ran yesterday at Pontefract. I'm hoping he doesn't declare again, because I can see us being on the bubble, and if he gets in, he'll run a big race. Frankie Dettori's booked, we're going to be watching Dex on Wednesday morning very closely.
And you touched on, obviously, Subjectivist retiring, which is a massive shame. The year on the whole, have you been really pleased with the way things have gone?
I think numerically it's been a strong year. We're on the verge now of our 100th winner. Hopefully we'll be hitting that this week. And yeah, we're maybe lacking a star now. Subjectivist leaves a bit of a hole in that regard. But the filly on Saturday in the Princess Margaret was very impressive, and hopefully there's some nice 2-year-olds that can step up to fill that void at the top level.
And you're not going to be at Glorious Goodwood on Saturday, because you're jetting off on Friday night to Saratoga. Just give us a few lines about that.
Yeah, so Line of War, who was second at Royal Ascot in the Golden Gates on Saturday, he's going out for the Saratoga Derby. Sadly, it'll be his last race for us. He's staying out in America after that. But yeah, he's a horse we've always thought a lot of. He ran a huge race at Ascot. He was pretty poorly positioned. Burdett Road got first run on him, and he couldn't quite peg him back. He'll need to be a bit more on his mettle early to get a good position, American style racing. But he's a talented horse, and he goes there with a good chance.
Brilliant. That's very kind of you to talk about your runners for Glorious Goodwood and, of course, Saratoga on Saturday. Good luck with those. Good luck with the week. And thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Right, we're going to get stuck into the races because we're going to dissect those and hopefully steer us in the direction of a winner or two. Obviously, at this stage, we haven't necessarily got draws, we don't know the ground, and we haven't got full decks throughout the week, but we'll give it our best shot, and we're going to get underway with the Lennox Stakes, which is one of the feature races we're looking forward to tomorrow. Matt, how do they bet?
Yeah, it all centres around Kinross, really, doesn't he? Won it 2 years ago, second last year, and he's probably going to take some beating. He's in there, he's 11-8. Frankie Dettori, of course, on board. He's finally a glorious Goodwood. This will be the one on day one that all the punters get stuck into. He'll probably get his ground. He's put to soft in a minute. And yeah, he's going to be very hard to beat, you would imagine. We know 7 furlong is his trip. But, you know, I wouldn't discount something like Isaac Shelby. Just touched off in the French Guineas, fourth in the Sussex Stakes as well. I think they dropped down, fourth in the St James's Palace. So I think they dropped down to 7. It's interesting. What we're worried about is the pace. I'm not sure where pace is going to come from. I know Kinross likes to come off that decent pace, so I'm not sure if he's going to get it all his own way. But, you know, he's short enough, but he's probably going to take the.
I think he probably is. I was a big fan of his in the July Cup last time when he was third, and I was hoping more rain was going to materialise. It did everywhere else, but not quite enough at Newmarket, but he ran well.
He did run well, yes. And this thing about him being a soft ground horse, he's a real autumn horse because a lot of his form is on a bit quicker ground. But all his big performances, all his big wins have been at the back end of the season. You know, he won those 2 Group 1s towards the tail end of last season. And he is the class act in this race for that matter. You know, he'd be well clear on the ratings because he's got that Group 1 form behind him. You know, he comes out in these Group 1 sprints and he's top rated a lot of the time because he's got those big performances in his recent history. We were talking before, weren't we, Maddy, and we're finding it very hard to get him beat. I think the fact that the Tory is on him maybe means that people have let go of Audience a little bit quicker because Audience is a horse that, I mean, he's not ridden him so far, but he's a Gosden horse, and you'd imagine Dettori could have chosen to ride him. I think part of the reason Dettori will have chosen Kinross is because he knows he'll get 4 more Group 1 rides out of the horse between now and the end of the season, because you know what he's going to run. He's going to run in the 40, the Champions Sprint, etc. We know the races he's going to run in. Audience is still finding his feet. 3 runs ago, they ran him in a 5 furlong conditioned race at Nottingham. I think he's a horse that took a long time to figure out. But his last 2 runs have been massive, massive steps forward to win a handicap at Leicester, and then he won last time very impressively too. Very much earned his place in this sort of company, and I don't think he's anything like as likely a winner as Kinross. And if I were a jockey choosing my rides, I'd be on Kinross too. But I think maybe the Dettori factor has worked a little bit too much in Kinross's favour, and maybe not quite enough, or maybe too far against Audience. But Kinross, I'll struggle to get Kinross beat.
I agree. I feel like Rafe Beckett deserves a bit of luck. He's got so close in some big races recently.
He's got a really smart stable of horses, though, and I had some nice 2-year-olds recently. And yeah, as Keith said, we were talking about it beforehand. Kinross, he's the class act in this race, and I find the way he's been campaigned this year really interesting. You know, he wasn't out early doors. We know he likes that autumn time of year. Not a bad run at Royal Ascot, but much better in conditions that probably would have suited him last time in the July Cup. That's a standout piece of form in the context of this race. In terms of, Matt was a little bit worried about pace. Well, Pogo tends to go forward, and I imagine Isaac Shelby won't be far away either, so that could work out in Kinross's favour. I think if there was one who could surprise a little bit, could be Carl Burke's Indestructible. Decent run in a Group 1 in France last time to finish 4th. Still pretty unexposed, and although you know he needs to step up, we know that could be possible at this time of year, and of course he's going to get weight from the older horses. But yeah, not much price about Kinross, but a course and distance winner, of course, previous winner of this race. He's the standout selection.
I think we probably all agree that Kinross is going to take a lot of beating in that race that we've just discussed. Well, the feature race of the day is the Al Shakab at Goodwood Cup. This looks a cracking renewal. Matt, what's going to go a favourite, do you think?
I think it's going to be Courage Mon Ami now, looking at it. Obviously, the Frankie factory still beaten. He's a pound worse off with Coltrane, isn't he? But it is a brilliant renewal. I cannot wait for this to get underway. You've got Emily Dickinson in there as well, Alder on the comeback trail, Giavoletto as well. But yeah, it's going to be Courage Mon Ami, I'd imagine, will go off favourite the Ascot Gold Cup there at Down. Obviously, they were toying with putting Gregory in this as well, weren't they? But they're going to keep him for later on. With 9-4, as you can see, Courage Mon Ami. 11-4 then Coltrane. We heard Asheen Murphy say he won't be Frankie's target this time like he was at Ascot. And Emily Dickinson, she's now 11-2. I feel like they discounted Elder on the back of that run. He was very weak in the Ascot Gold Cup and very disappointed, as was like Sakir. But Roger Varian in much better form now. You know, he's a St. Ledger winner. He was vying for favouritism on the morning of the Gold Cup. And here he is now on the back of that bad run, turning up at 9-1 for a Goodwood Cup. So, you know, he's of each way interest. Brilliant race. Cannot wait for this one.
We'll start with you, Maddy. The favourite here, the Ascot Gold Cup winner, remains unbeaten, but there's not a lot between him and Coltrane, is there?
There's not, and I think that's one of the really fascinating aspects of this race. We know favourites have a really good record. They've won the last 5 renewals, and even before that, did pretty well. With the Frankie factor again, he's sure to go off quite a short price. We don't really know how good he is because he's had that major win at Ascot last time, and he was quite impressive in doing it. A comfortable winner in the end. I wonder, I was speaking to Oisin Murphy yesterday actually, and he sort of thinks that the 2 miles of Goodwood will suit Coltrane better. But for me, this is probably a little bit more of an open division than we're thinking. The one I quite like at the prices, I always like to try and pick out a horse at a bigger price, is Quickthorn. Now, he absolutely demolished Coltrane at York a few runs back when given that enterprising ride by Tom Marquand. He's back on board. I really like that jockey booking. A winner last time. I think he's going to really like this track. He's a long striding horse. He can dictate the pace as he likes. Tom can slow them up, quicken them up, do what he likes. He reminds me a little bit of Big Orange, who won this race a couple of times, purely because he's got that big long stride. He stays forever.
He was a giant, wasn't
Yeah, and I think there could be the opportunity for some real enterprising rides here. So at the prices, I think he's around the 16-1 mark. Quickthorn for me, I think he's going to be a key tactical player as well.
Yeah, we agree, don't we? We think this is a race where the way it's priced up with the first two, it's like the division's far more established and baked in than it actually is. Courage Bonamie's run 4 times in his life, and yes, he could be extremely good. To have won a Gold Cup at Ascot on your 4th run says a horse of deep talent. He'd already won a race at Goodwood too before that. But, you know, I think it's still an open division. You look at the figures, they're not running to their average historically in terms of these champion stayers. So there is a bit of room to get them beat with a horse at a big price. And if you watch that Gold Cup again, 2 Outlaw Eagles in front. And then he just hits the wall and he finishes 9th of 12, you know, well beat. But this horse started the season, you know, he's even a middle distance horse. He was second in an Irish Derby, etc. And they started the season with Beckett, and they moved him up in trip quite late in May. He's still learning to be a stayer, I think. He was too keen in the Gold Cup. You know, it was 2.5 miles anyway at a much stiffer track. 2 miles round Goodwood, where he's already won. He won the Cocked Hat Stakes by half the track, didn't he, beating Yabir? And that's what booked him his place at the Curragh when he was second in that Irish Derby to Hurricane Lane. Look at that. I'm name dropping here for the horse because his form, his back class is really, really strong. And he turned in with every chance in that Gold Cup, didn't get home, and I can back him at 20-1 here. I think that's a fantastic price.
Yeah, no, as you say, I think it's probably slightly more open than the market suggests. Of the 2 that were first and second in the Gold Cup, I agree with what Oisin says. I think the trip and everything could just be slightly to the advantage of Coltrane, and I think he might reverse the placings, I should say there. We'll move on to Wednesday, the Whispering Angel Oak Tree Stakes, which is a Group 3 for fillies and mares, and I think this is probably going to be quite open. Quite a big field as well, Matt.
Yeah, they've got 16 going to post, haven't we? So, yeah, it is going to be wide open. Fast Response, you imagine, prominent in the market as well, with Matilda Picard as well. But I really, I was watching the declarations this morning to see if she was going to be entered, and that's Olivia Meralda. I think this is a great race for her. 7 furlongs, so impressive she was at Epsom, a downhill 7 furlongs. She bombed out. It's probably a little bit harsh in the Guineas when she was 7th behind Morge. I thought she was given a load to do in the Jersey Stakes as well last time out. And having start on board, I think she's got a huge chance here this afternoon. She ran about 7-1. So, yeah, Olivia Meralda, I think she's one of my strongest fancies of the week. I've gone for the easiest race, obviously 16 fillies over the 7 furlongs. Yes, she will need looking running, but I think she's tailor-made for this. Really happy.
Keith, have you got a strong view here?
It wasn't a strong view. It's not. I feel bad because Matt's coming. I fancy the same horse, but not strongly. I do fancy Olivia Meralda. I thought that Epsom Rome was a really interesting bit of form coming into this. You know, it's one of those very much rules of thumb, but Epsom and Goodwood do translate to each other reasonably at some of the time, and that's her best performance so far. Wasn't totally disgraced in a Guinea, still finding her level, and this is a much more comfortable level than, you know, Group 1 races and whatnot. So in the last run at Royal Ascot, you know, doing her best work at the finish again in a really competitive race there. Yeah, I think those sort of odds I'd be willing to take a chance, but Matt sounds like he's in front of the queue, and he's ahead of me in the queue anyway.
What do you think, Maddy?
I like this race because often you get fillies that aren't rated that far apart, and you can really have crack at something at a bigger price. Last year I did it with International Angel and it about made me cry because she just got touched off in the closing stages. I'm going to shout out the outside of the whole field here, Maddy. She ran at Maidan at the early part of the year, 2 third places, good efforts in good races, and was just behind White Moonlight on both of those occasions. That filly's going to be quite well fancied for this race. And Maddy, the Spanish trained horse, was given an exaggerated waiting ride on both of those occasions, so I think she could be value for reversing the form. On a ratings perspective, she's rated 100, so she's actually rated a lot higher than some of the fillies ahead of her in the market. You know, you look at the likes of Glen Laurel, who's rated 93, she's rated the same as Magical Sunset, etc. So I think, and you know, if you're familiar with my punting approach, you'll know that I like to back these international raiders because people just presume that they have no chance, when actually if you take a dig into the form, she has got some sort of chance. I think at the moment you can get around 40 to 1. Wouldn't be surprised if she drifts out again. Will handle conditions if it turns soft, but also is a good horse on firm ground as well. So those waiting tactics could pay off at this track, particularly if they get a strong pace. I don't think she should be the price she is.
I definitely think that's a good point about the international horses, because a lot of the time ignorance and apathy will overlap.
Yep.
Now, sometimes that's right, and sometimes it's not. You know, well, we're talking to the person famous for putting up Torquato Tasso here, so yeah, it's the same idea.
I know I liked you for a reason.
Well, I'm going to give a quick mention to Sydney Arms Chelsea because she's a filly for Chelsea Thoroughbreds that we purchased for 9,000 guineas, and she's been great fun. She won a Group 3, and she's been off for quite a long time since. She was actually targeting the guineas and then had a few problems, and this is her first run back. So, all being well, I'm hoping at a decent price that she can go quite close. Feature race of the meeting is the Group 1 Sussex Stakes, a Group 1 over a mile, and a very short price favourite, Mads.
Yeah, we have, and rightly so. I think Paddington. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Can he get beat? Now, surely he started off in life in handicaps. He surprised Ballydor with his improvement. Emily Upjohn obviously let the form down a little bit at the weekend, and I don't know what the guys think. He just had that head carriage in the final furlong at Sandown. He was still going forward, don't get me wrong, and he was battling all the way to the line, but I just thought it was a little bit of an awkward head carriage up the hill there at Sandown. He's back down to a mile. You know, we know he's a class act, but I would just wish there was something else in there that we could take him on. I think Ryan Moore's been a little bit clever here. And Aston Michael started to run Nostrum a little later on in the week. Obviously, the toying idea with France, I was really taken with him at Newmarket. And Richard Kingscote, Betfred Ambassador's a massive fan of Nostrum. So I think Ryan Moore getting to ride both of them, he's been a little bit naughty there. But obviously, Inspirel is the main danger. She's in there at second favourite, the Frankie Factor, second in the Queen Anne. So she'll have her supporters. I just think he's short enough. He's not a betting proposition. I just wish there was something else, a little bit more strength in the opposition to try and get him beat. And he's like I say, he's 5 out of 5. He's 3 Group 1s, but I'm not sure about Paddington.
Not sure about Paddington. What do we think, team?
I get it. We get it, don't we? It's a sort of, you'll try and get him beat because he has got that head carriage, and I'm always against horses that are like that. That's why I never want a cue card like some did. He was like that, wasn't he? But the head, you're there, and he's a horse that you would try and get beat, even though his ability's there for all to see. And to be honest, Inspirel was like that for a while. You know, she's a horse who she was inclined to throw in an absolute howler now and again, and for that reason, you always fancied to try and get her
really slowly
beat.
out the stalls as well.
Yeah, exactly. She's a bit funny, really, but the maths are different this time. This is what I was saying to you beforehand. The math, you've been asked to back Inspirel with some ridiculous odds. You know, she was 7s on when she got beaten in that Falmouth. She's gone off favourite for big races. She was 11 to 10 for the QE2 last year, and even second favourite for the Queen Anne last time. And you know, the maths are different this time, though. She's now got a horse that's clearly at least as talented as her. But if you put that figure on from last year's Coronation Stakes at Royal Ascot, she's only £1 off Paddington on ratings. And yeah, the way things are, the Nile's a horse I would particularly trust hugely, but one's 4 to 6 and one's 9 to 2. So I'm now falling behind Inspirel a little bit more because I think one day you'll get Paddington beat. Do
you think just a very solid each way bet at 9 to 2? You can't do much damage.
There's nothing solid about Inspirel.
Well, that's true.
She's a very talented filly and might turn up and she's just good enough to give Paddington a proper race. And if Paddington, hesitates for a second, she could get in and beaten.
What do you think? Any chance of getting Paddington beaten?
I think he will get beaten at some point, like Keith. There's just something about him that I'm not totally convinced by, but he keeps proving me wrong.
He does keep doing it, doesn't he? 5 from 5 this year.
and the head carriage, as you say, it doesn't really seem to matter. And we do see horses with that high head carriage who still win races, and that's exactly what he's been doing. Emily Upjohn didn't exactly boost the form in the King George, but she was a far better mare there than she was at Ascot, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. And as Keith's touched upon, in Spiral, you're going to have to take plenty on trust with her as well. I think this will largely be a watching race for me. It's often one of those races that can turn into a bit of a duel between two horses and the rest of the field could struggle. I always like to have a crack at something, but in this case, I think those two are the standout performers, and Paddington's going to have a lot in his favour. I'm not sure this will be the day that he gets beat. Anyway.
The French horse has just got a bit too much to find, doesn't he? I had a look at him. I thought, is this the sort of horse Maddy puts up? But, he's just got a bit too much to find, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so. He doesn't appeal terribly for me, and tactics will be fascinating. That's what we should say. In this small field, where's the pace going to come from? There's not a standout front runner, really. I wonder if now he's proved his stamina, they'll maybe even go forward on Paddington and keep things simple.
I'd like to see him win. I'd like to see him remain 6 from 6 this year,
he's
because I
building
do
a
love
great
it when we
CV.
get a champion and we get something that just keeps delivering. So from that point of view, to me, it'll be a watching race. I very much look forward to it, and I hope that he can deliver. Well, there isn't a better time to sign up to the Racing Post Members Club with 50% off your first 3 months. Check this out. As we move on through the week, the Group 3 Gordon Stakes is the next race we're going to have a look at. I'd expect a smallish field here, Matt. How are we likely to price these up?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a smallish field. Obviously, looking at the trial for the Betfred St Ledger as well at Doncaster. So it depends which Aidan O'Brien runner turns up. I very much doubt both will turn up. The Adelaide River is at 9 to 4, so second in the Irish Derby, just behind Augusta Rodan. And then Espionage as well. He obviously popped over to Roscommon, give Ryan Moore a rare visit to Roscommon, and it just looked an out-and-out stayer on that occasion. That's in there 11 to 4. Artistic Star brings the Derby form, and they're behind King of Steel at 6-1. And then the really interesting one, Unexposed Lion's Pride, Jonathan Thady Gosden. We've seen what he did with Courage Mon Ami this year. This one beat a stable companion on the all-weather. It is kind of dirt bred out of Owen Line, but also by an American dam as well. And I've got to be interested to see how he takes to turf this week. But he's only around about 16-20 to 1 for the Betfred St Ledger. So Frank and his story on board, he's a real interesting one in the small field. Obviously, Aidan O'Brien holds the key, whichever one of those two market leaders turns up.
Maddie, what have you got up your sleeve for us here?
Gosh, it's a tough race, this, but I must say I'm drawn to the two Royal Ascot winners, Desert Hero and Burdett Road. I mean, on the figures, they've got an absolute mountain to climb, but this is a funny time of year where you can see those established 3-year-olds from the first part of the season being overtaken by the more improving types who have more to offer. Obviously, Adelaide River, with his Group 1 form in the book, in the Irish Derby and the Grand Prix de Paris, he would be very, very difficult to beat here. And interesting that he had that initial Goodwood Cup entry as well. An Espionage too for the Aidan O'Brien team. They're likely to be very short in the market. But yeah, without knowing draw and more details, I think Burdett Road is definitely a horse who's going to improve for going up in trip. He's by Muhara, who's big stamina influence. And Desert Hero, that was one of the best rides at the Royal Ascot meeting by Tom Marquand, wasn't it, when he won? I think there's plenty more improvement up his sleeve. So two sort of tentative each way selections there.
Yeah, this is a race, we put it as a Ledger trial, but as often as not, it's actually a trial for 2024 or whatever the next year is.
Yeah.
A lot of the horses that win this race are going to be really good horses the following year, and Chess Piece is a horse that's looked like that for me. The other race that does well for next year is the Glasgow Stakes, the one race he won last time at Hamilton. But another reason I quite like this horse is he's only run 5 times, but he's had a fairly hard education. He's won a handicap at York. He's finished 3rd in a Queen's Vase at Royal Ascot, maybe found the trip a little bit too far for him that day at this stage of his career. One of those horses maybe they've confused sort of inexperience for stamina. Sometimes that happens with these middle distance horses. This mile-and-a-half race, still on the up. Every run's been a PB so far for him. Just thought in this race he was very interesting because we talk about O'Brien and the horse he runs is probably going to go off favourite. It's not very often O'Brien runs a really good one in this race. He's only Highland Reel, who was a much better 4-year-old, and also Mogul. That was the COVID year when trials were a little bit thin on the ground. Generally speaking, O'Brien doesn't send his big ones here.
Yeah. Well, following on from this, talking of big ones, at 3:35 is the feature race of the day. It's the Qatar Nassau Stakes. Group 1 for fillies, and we're going to have a short price favourite in the way of the French filly. How short, Matt?
Yeah, we will. It's quite surprising, really, because we've got Nashua bouncing back to form in the Falmouth, and obviously she's the reigning champion, and obviously Holly Doyle on board. There'll be plenty of clamour around that. But, Blue Rose Sen, she's just brilliant. 11-10 at present, Blue Rose Sen. I was really fortunate enough to be told about ahead of the Marcel Boussac last year when she blew them away impressively on that soft ground. Then she's added at the trial, then the French 1,000, then the Prix de Diane. She's absolutely sensational, isn't she? So I think it's one for the favourite backers. We've got Nashua in there at 2-1, as you mentioned. Then Al Hussein at 8-1, obviously beat Nashua in the Hopkins Stakes. Warm Heart for O'Brien at 8-1. But it looks like the rain's going to come in time for as well. Wednesday, Thursdays with plenty of rain around. Obviously, we know she'll appreciate that. And yeah, I think it's another one for favourite because of Nashua.
Well, let's hear about the chances of the favourite because Sam Hart caught up with her trainer, Christopher Head.
Blue Rose Sen. She's such a star for you. She's heading to the Nassau Stakes. She's the favourite for the race. How is she?
She's doing fine. She has done a brilliant job during the preparation for the Nassau Stakes. I think all lights are green, and we just can't wait to take her on the travel to go to Nassau.
And she's been incredible all season, Christopher. She's obviously, as a 2-year-old, she won the Prix Marcel Boussac on Arc weekend. And then this season, she's won the Pouliche, the French 1,000 guineas, and the Diane, the French Oaks. She's been an absolute star, hasn't she?
Yeah, she's had a brilliant style, and I really love her attitude. I think the travel is going to be an easy thing for her. And of course, we are still on the same distance that we know her. So against all the fillies, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and when did you discover with this horse, Chris? Or when did you discover that she could be top class? When was it when you first went, this could be a superstar?
She showed a lot of quality throughout her 2-year-old season. And we've been fortunate enough to be in the right schedule to get her for the Marcel Boussac without having a hard trip or a hard race. And I think that's pretty much what made her sufficient to be a 3-year-old and jump onto the career of a 3-year-old.
Let's talk about the Nassau Stakes with her now, because it's obviously a massive Group 1 and it'll be huge for her to come over and win the Nassau Stakes. But she's facing Nashua, who was very impressive in the Falmouth Stakes. Obviously, you get weight off Nashua, the weight for age there. Are you concerned, or you think that you could have this race in the bag?
I think a race is a race, and we have to respect the opponents at some points. But I think that she got a fair chance on that kind of distance. She already showed in the past. So I think that we have our head start to be able to go into another country and try her. And I know that the English and the Irish trainers are really doing a fine job with their horses. So I really expect her to be a head start, to be able to jump onto that kind of challenge.
So Keith, how good is this filly? Because she's looked very smart.
She has, and especially with horses traded in France, because the races tend to get run over there, they're often even more stilly run than your average British and Irish race. It's hard to put ground into horses, and it's hard to know until they come out. It's hard enough when horses come out of 3-year-old company and go into older horses, or open age races, what they're going to do. And it's but she's looked so impressive. If you're trying to get her beat, you're doing it on the basis of that form in the Diane last time, aren't you? Because Never Ending Stories come out twice and run badly since. Tasmania was third at a huge price. Wise Girl was fourth at another huge price. And the 5th horse, Elusive Princess, just gets unlucky in every single race. I'm going to lose a lot of money backing her this year. Keeps shaping well. But, had another luckless run through that race from a very wide draw. So in terms of the collateral form of that race, you could argue it's not all that she put so much ground into them in these races. Potentially a tactical race here a little bit again too, so she's got the tactical speed, and I think you're struggling to get her beat. Nashua's run out a really big margin winner in the Falmouth last time, but that's a struggle to believe that on face value a little bit. She's a very likeable horse and a very solid horse. But
And she won the race last year.
And she won the race last year, so she suits the track very well. But if Blue Rose Sen is a sort of horse we think she isn't, that she's looked so far, she should be beating Nashua, I think.
Yeah,
is it just about these two, or can we look beyond that?
It's funny, isn't it? Because Al Hussein, who beat Nashua at Newcastle, of course, is rated 107 and Nashua rated 119. So you think, well, hang on, one of them's beat the other. But I was really staggered by what Nashua did at Newmarket, actually. I wasn't expecting a performance of that quality. I think she's a filly who probably needs everything to drop right. She needs the right setup. She needs a good pace. By Frankel, she's typically strong stayer at this sort of trip. Blue Rose Sen is super exciting and very tactically versatile, I think, which could stand her in good stead in this sort of race. It's tough to have a strong opinion on it. I do think we deserve to mention, Al Hussein deserves to be mentioned, but I'd struggle to see her beating the two big ones, if I'm honest. I'm just going to enjoy this because I think it's going to be a fascinating tactical race, and hopefully we'll see the continued birth of a new star in Blue Rose Sen.
Yeah, as you said, a brilliant race to watch. The top two do look standouts, and I think Nashua might just be able to do it again. On Friday, we have the valuable Golden Mark. Plenty of prize money up. You need a lot of luck in running. You need a good draw. Matt, I know we don't have the draw yet, but do we have some early prices?
Yeah, we do. It's wide open, as you say. It is obviously pinned on the draw, so anyone having a bet before that's made on Wednesday morning, they just need to have a strong look at themselves. 6 of the last 7 would have been drawn 1, 2, or 3, and the 7th was drawn in 5. So yeah, you're certainly looking at the draw. But as it stands, we've got the usual suspects. Blue for You in there for David O'Mara. Latamu missed a engagement at the weekend. He's in there as well. He's probably still to come out. But it's Pearce who's your favourite now. I lost plenty backing him in the Royal Hunt Cup, and then obviously it wasn't on, like Paul Keeley. But he came out and won at Sandown last time. That's he's at 7-1. Another one who always runs good rates. He's a massive price again, but Uzo, he's a regular in these. He always likes to get placed. He never ever. But he's in there at around about 20-1 as well for Safi Osborne. Had such that great weekend, of course, and that treble of the Racing League. So she's red hot at present. I thought Uzo can go well, but I tell you, it's all about the draw. So wait until Wednesday morning when the draw is made, and I tell you, those prices look pretty different.
When I look at Perotto, I just think of Paul Keeley because he's got that horse wrong every time. And the one time he didn't pile on was when it bolted up at Sandown. I feel slightly sorry for him with this horse, but super talented. But it is very difficult to talk about this race really with no draw. Yeah,
the anti-post market's given you a big clue, I think, with that too, because Perotto is the horse at this stage before the draw that looks like he's got all the attributes for it. You know, that form coming in, still well handicapped, even though he's won last time out. He's got a penalty here. And has back class that makes him well handicapped off that sort of mark. He's 2 from 6 at Goodwood as well, and been second in the nursery at this meeting. So that's probably the best course record in the field. I had a little look at all the horses in the race's course records, and I think he's the only one that's won multiple times at the track. So he's the favourite by default ahead of the draw. But as soon as that draw comes out, if he's drawn in 15, it's going to go off 16-1.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to change so much after that draw. It's even more start than Matt says. It's 10 years since a horse drawn in double figures won the race. It's just
actually crazy, isn't it?
How it works out like that year on year is quite something. So I won't be betting before the decks come out. I mean, Perotto he's the right horse to have at the top of the betting before decks come out, but that
if he gets a good draw though, what price do you think he'll go off?
Well, again, because that draw's so well known and so well baked in, 9-2's not out of the question, is it? Something short like that in a 20-runner field.
9-2, I couldn't be doing that in a race like this. As Keith said, he's outlined the dangers of betting in this race before the draw. The two that came to my mind I thought were quite interesting were Johan for Jack Channon, had a great first season. I think we've spoken to him on this show before, down to a competitive mark. He's not been seen in a long time, but we know connections can get a horse ready. And the other one, Dual Identity, got some really strong bits and pieces of form in the book. Hasn't had things fall his way the last couple of times, been drawn on the wrong side, had the wrong setup. Those are both double figure prices. If they get a decent draw and they get the luck, then I'll be wanting to keep those on side, but it's too difficult just now, Emma.
Well, following on from this at 3:35 is the Group 2 King George Qatar Stakes, Fast and Furious over 5 furlongs. The brilliant Highfield Princess is likely to be favourite. At what kind of price, Matt?
Yeah, and she is. She's been brilliant, hasn't she? I mean, so unlucky at Royal Ascot. So, yeah, she is the market leader, and she's probably going to take quite a bit of beating in here. But, she's short enough, even money. She's been running very well. but she hasn't been winning. It's 5 races without a win. All right, she's dropping down into class, into Group 2. We've got Dramatised, another filly in there for Pearl Burke at 6-1. Equality, when you think of Goodwood Sprint, you kind of think of Charles Hills, don't you? You think of Magical Morning, you think of Pardon, you think of the Dash, obviously. So he's now at 7-2 on the back of that impressive handicap win last time out. But at 16-1, he got Russell. He was 3-1 favourite for this race last year. It's the only time he's been beaten at Goodwood in 3 attempts. He was a next second to Cardham. That doesn't look shabby after what he did at Royal Ascot. So I think Russell, although his form hasn't been as good this year, I think each way 16-1, but a track that we know he loves is a big player. But, racing fan, it'd be great to see Highfield Princess get her head back in front with no doubt some big autumn targets once again on her agenda.
Maddy, she's very versatile, isn't she? 5-6 furlongs, ground, and she's been a superstar.
She has. It was one of my favourite stories of the season last season, and she's not done that much wrong this year. Placed and looked very versatile again over a combination of trips. There is an element of sort of I wanted her to be winning those races though. And I am almost, maybe it's because I had such high expectations, particularly after an excellent reappearance at York. I thought she'd really come forward. But she is a cut above, £7 clear of equality on official ratings. I think I will likely wait until nearer the time, but I might have a little each way bet on either of the other 4-year-old fillies, Makarova or Nymphadora, both improving. Both ran really well last time. Nymphadora winning at Chester, clear-cut winner, and Makarova running on strongly from a difficult position at Sandown. I just think this is a difficult race to get a hand on. If you're confident that Highfield Princess will produce her best and is the superstar that she's looked on several occasions, then I'm sure you'll want to get involved with her at a price. But for me, I'd rather chance something else, I think.
Highfield Princess, it's a hard one to bet in because I've got a little bit of a theory about Highfield Princess. I loved her last year. I thought she was a horse of the year last year, and I'm not one for stories and all that. She was just so consistent. The way she kept improving, the attitude she showed, the turn of pace she was still able to show in Nunthorpe, having won the Morris de Guest the time before.
Yeah.
Just horse of the year last year. So maybe I'm a little bit biased about her, but I'm disappointed she's not won these races this year. I said to Maddy, I just think she might be getting faster as she gets older. She might be strengthening up and getting, because where she's struggled this year is to maybe just see a race out in the last 50, 100 yards. And so I thought after the York race, I thought, next time at Ascot, she'll be fit as a flea and that'll be her and she'll see it out.
I couldn't see her beating at Ascot.
No, not in the King's Stands. But she's ended up in both races not quite seen it. So maybe she is just a pure 5 furlong horse now. If she is, she wins this doing handsprings. She's much better than them. If not, then you're into a really open race, the sort of one that Maddy and normally myself would like to sort of bet in because I'm by default like a big price one myself. To that end, one I'll be giving a look, who I assume will be declared because she's already jocked up with Jim Crowley, is Queen Bee. The Kevin Ryan horse finished sixth, I think, in the Commonwealth Cup, but she was the only horse from a high stall that got remotely involved in that race. The far side had had it in hand. Shaquille obviously missed the start, but tacked on a Little Big Bear who was on the far side. Only this horse got involved really from the near side and ran a really good race.
Shows loads of pace, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. She does. Her dam won the Lowther. She was second in the Lowther behind Swing Along, who's turned into a really good sprinter since then. She was actually third in the Commonwealth Cup. So got quite a lot of good form looking back. Hasn't shown us everything she's got yet, I don't think. And I'm not worried about the drop back to 5 for reasons Maddy says. It's going to be a tricky one because of that Highfield Princess, will she, won't she? But I would just put her up as a big price one to have a good look at.
And finally, the last race we're going to look at, 35 minutes later is the Gloria Stakes at 4:10. A Group 3 looks quite a fascinating renewal, actually, Matt.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, New London will head the betting. He's around about 6-4, 13-8 shot 4 Godolphin. The one last year's Gordon Stakes, second behind Elderoff. And then we didn't see him until he reappeared at Newmarket last time out. Oh, he wasn't beaten too far and he's entitled to come on plenty for that. But any soft in the going description with that rain around Wednesday and Thursday, and I can see Hamish there taking up market leadership. Mr. King George, of course, on account of the ground. I imagine he'll be popular. Then we've got Mimikyu, who's next in the betting. She's around about a 5-1 chance. But at a bigger price, we've got this Louisa Casati. I know Richard Kingscote, when he rode over course and distance when she won a listed race, I think they were quite surprised by that. But I thought she backed it up okay to Haydock last time. I was on length behind Mimikyu. She's just about to get involved, and then he kind of went away. That was on quicker ground. Back on a softer surface, I think she's maybe worth a second look at a much bigger price than Mimikyu with only a length to find. But I still think they have the work cut out to get the better of the top two, New London and Hamish. But again, it's kind of weather and ground watch. God knows.
Again, no decks, no draw, but
a
tentative view.
Yeah, the weather forecast a big one
And
here,
weather.
I think, because if we get the rain like maybe is forecast as we sit here now, I can see Hamish going off fairly short actually. So the sort of horse I'd almost be tempted to chance anti-post, even though I'm not certain on running plans, because if that rain comes like it's looking like, he could go off a very warm order. He's currently available at about 2 to 1, 9 to 4, and yeah, it's a tentative view. But if you think the rain's going to come, then I can see that horse going off quite short.
Yeah, no strong view on this for me. There's a couple I'll be keeping my eye on, Candleford and Louisa Casati, are those two. But to be honest, I'm not too keen on New London as a favourite. I wouldn't be wanting to offload all my cash onto him. And Hamish is so solid and strong at this sort of level. I'd be leaving this race for now.
Okay, well, that's a few days away. As I say, the weather could change. We don't know the decks. There's a few tentative selections for that final race that we're looking at. So it is time to get our best bets of the week. Matt, let's start with you.
Yeah, I did say I'm a big fan of Olivia Miralda, but I think Killian in the Molecombe is going to take a world of beating. Rhyme already jocked up for Carl Burke. We saw he won with elite status over France at the weekend, so he's got a real strong hand on these juvenile sprinters. Big Evans is in there a second favourite. He won the Windsor Castle, but I don't think he'll have a handle for Killian. He's obviously expected to win his first 3 starts as a very short price favourite. Then he went and got his head in front of Newcastle, but ahead of a very well-bred Kevin Ryan sprinter, and then blew them away last time out at Sandown. Was on the rail and come all the way round and absolutely flew away from them. If he's in any similar kind of form, we'll see which way he went in the mole. Killian.
Perfect. Matt, are you going to Goodwood at all?
I am. I'm about to leave in a couple of hours, head down there. So, yes, it's a 4-hour drive for me from Chester. So, yeah, it's going to take a while, but it'll be well worth it for a few days.
Well, brilliant. Thank you very much. We wish you all the best at Goodwood. Good luck. Maddie, best bet of the week.
I can't believe I'm going to do this, but let's keep it interesting. The same race that Matt mentioned, the 225 at Goodwood on Wednesday. I'm going to go for the outside of the whole field, Samedi Rien. Of those we talked about, I just think that she's really going to outrun her odds. Why not? Give something that others might not necessarily be sure on. I think she's definitely the wrong price.
Well, I'm being a little bit boring, but I'm a Nassau fan, actually, to beat the French filly. I was very impressed by what she did last time, super impressed by what she did in the race last year, and she's just solid and class. I know the French filly could just be a cut above, but, let's see. Nassau's the proven one, and I think it's a fascinating renewal. Well, we've given you our best bets of the week. Go check out racingpost.com/free bets to see how you may be able to get £200 worth of free bets. So, Maddy, thanks for joining us for the programme. Do you get the opportunity to go racing this week?
Yes, can't wait. We'll be heading down to Goodwood after working in the office today, and then I think I'm also there on Friday and Saturday. Looking forward to reporting on Saturday. Hope we get a blockbuster winner of the Stewards' Cup. That's always a great betting race. Really looking forward to it.
And outfits, are they all in the bag, sorted?
1 or 2. Some tentative selections at the moment, given the weather. So I'm hoping it stays dry. Otherwise, it could be a bit of a massacre.
When it's like this, it's actually almost easy. It's just a Mac and an umbrella. Yeah, and then that covers everything up underneath. Not a problem that men have.
No, I don't have a linen suit, though, so I can't be going to Goodwood anytime soon. What
about the hat?
The hat, I don't have a Panama. I'm not 80. God.
Well, you could just walk in. There's a shop as soon as you're there. As soon as you walk in to the track.
So,
I think it would look good on you.
Do you think so? A Panama look about.
So you're not going because you haven't got the kit?
No, basically, I can't go in. I've not got the uniform for Goodwood, so I can't.
Would you be going anyway? No.
No, I live too far away. I've never actually been to Goodwood. I was saying to Maddy, it's high on the list. But
okay, save it for a sunny day.
Yeah.
Because honestly,
absolutely.
when it's sunny, it's spectacular.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you sound like you've got plenty of ammunition for the week. I will be back here on Friday because we've got our Friday's What a Shout version. And of course, we'll be focusing on the best bets and the best races on the Saturday. Between now and then, goodbye and good luck at Glorious Goodwood.